Good afternoon, Saitlanders. How are you? We trust that you are very, very well. I'm in two minds about what to discuss in this video. I've got two very clear ideas. The one is Cyril Ramaphosa's speech at the mining Indaba, and the other is the events in Turkey, the earthquakes. And I think they're two very good stories to tell. So perhaps I should make two separate videos. Let's begin with Cyril Ramaphosa's speech at the mining Indaba. He gave a speech, a long speech, in which he said many things, but there were two things that stood out for me that were just really quite poignant. The one was to tell the audience there were 9,000 people, or there are 9,000 people. Today, I believe, is day 3 of the mining Indaba. In attendance, and they include miners, politicians from all over the show, particularly black politicians, black African politicians, I should say, from different countries that are serious mining countries. And they're investors and you name it, everybody's there. And of course, this comes against the backdrop. Any mining Indaba, the one of last year, the year before that, of recent years, it takes place against the backdrop of the severe decline in gold mining in South Africa. Of course, we were in the past the world's biggest gold miner by a long, long way. And indeed, we still have, I checked this on a US government geological survey website. We still apparently possess over 50% of the world's proven gold resources, if that's the correct term. In other words, more than half of all of the gold known to exist underground in the world is still in South African soil, or is in South African soil. But we've dropped to number 7 or 8 in terms of the largest gold mining countries in the world. So there is always this thing at the mining Indaba. I personally have never worked on the mining Indaba, but many of my colleagues did, and I have some rough idea of what it is. Many of my colleagues did in my former profession. And so there's always this thing lingering in the background. South Africa hosts this huge global mining conference, but gold mining in South Africa particularly is always declining. Now, there are two reasons for that. Number one, because there have been many huge discoveries made in places like Papua New Guinea and Australia and elsewhere of gold that is far more easily accessible than the typically deep-lying South African gold ore or resources, whatever is the correct term. The second is a lack of enthusiasm for huge long-term investments in the South African environment. So gold miners, obviously when they put up a mine and sink shafts and what have you, are putting hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars, I suppose, over long periods of time, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 years at risk. And very often the profitability is not that great. Yeah, of course, if you're a major shareholder, you're going to do well. But the margins may be terribly small. You might be hauling out hundreds of thousands of tons of rocks for a relatively low amount of gold. Profitable enough, but not in percentage terms. So at the end of the year, a bunch of people get really rich, but most of the people involved are not. It's not easy money. And therefore, if you invest, say, just for the sake of a number, R1 billion, and you know that the margins are low, it's not as if you're making R1 billion back every year. So your risk only lies over 1 or 2 or 3 years. And after that, it's, all the costs were covered. If there's a problem, if the mine gets shut down, and we'll get to those factors in a second, it's okay, you'll have made money. You may really only start creaming it, as it were, in year 5 or 7 or 10. It might take you a long time to on those small margins, to really build up a great deal of profit to pay off huge investments. So, when you're investing in a country in which black economic empowerment as ownership is a big consideration, black economic empowerment in terms of workforce is a big consideration, land expropriation is a consideration, labor productivity is a great consideration, labor laws, the prejudice or not of labor laws is a great consideration, and so on and so forth. Not to mention electricity. You might, as somebody who plays in the gold mining finance space, somebody who, like a bank that's willing to engage in gold mining, has a tradition of investing in gold mining, might say, and this is very much what they have said over the past roughly 20 years, listen, if we're going to risk $500 million or whatever the number may be, a huge chunk of money, in one mine where the gold lies very, very far deep, where it's not just a matter of pap skep, as het pap reën moet jy skep, where it's just not just a matter of, money growing on trees, on low-hanging branches, just a matter of taking a bucket and scooping it all up, where there's long-term investment required. And the risk, as I've just described, is made great by those factors. You might say, you know what, let's do it in Australia. Let's do it in South America. Let's do it in Congo. Man, it's a famous thing. Famous for such big money in any endeavor to buy off a certain president. To say to him, listen, we'll put whatever number of dollars in here and we'll give you a cut, but you had better make sure that we've got electricity, diesel, labor at a fair rate. If there are labor problems, that's your problem. You make sure that those guys get put in line pronto. So even in non-democratic environments, even in dictatorial environments or autocratic environments, these matters can be handled better than they can be in South Africa. And of course in environments like Australia and Papua New Guinea and so on, you know exactly what you're getting. So yesterday we had Cyril Ramaphosa talking about how it's time for the labor, the unions, and the investors and the miners to stop moaning and to climb into the ring with us. Which is an interesting expression, because climbing into the ring usually refers to something adversarial. Climbing into a boxing ring. But, okay, let's leave aside the English idiom, the poor English idiom. What he's saying is, come on, boys, let's scrum down together, all on one team. Come on, let's take arms. Let's link arms. Let's yoke up together. Let's, golly gee, make a team and go for it together to solve these problems. And you just knew that the people in the audience were thinking to themselves, what you actually mean is that we should give you a 16th chance. To persuade us to fix your problems for you. Stop grumbling, boys. Stop moaning so much, man. I know I've completely stuffed it up again, but I think that you should have a little bit better attitude. And you should be working with me, although you might find that I won't be working that much. To fix the problems that I've caused. He was speaking as if, you know, the African National Congress, he was speaking as if they deserve a second chance. And what they don't understand is that they got a honeymoon from white South Africa, a honeymoon period, from white South Africa, from business, from academia, from media. Everybody gave them the benefit of the doubt. I did. For the first years, in spite of the fact that I've always been conservative, not very well behaved, a black sheep, there are no two ways about it, but always instinctively conservative. Just a very, very poor example of my own beliefs. Call me a hypocrite. But I was willing to give the African National Congress the utter benefit of the doubt. You know, I once had a job in a company of, at the time, I remember it quite distinctly, 332 employees, a world famous company, very successful South African business. And not only famous, but one of the biggest in the world in that field. And when I began there, for one reason and another, I ended up going into an exceedingly lowly position. There were 2 female cleaners and 1 male cleaner and 6 or 8 security guards that were lower than me. And then all of the other black technicians, or all of the black technicians. And then the white technicians, you know, more highly skilled, more experienced, whatever. I sat there, just above the security guards and the 3 cleaners. I was like employee number 324 in that company of 332 people. And I got a promotion after a couple of years, a huge promotion, a phenomenal promotion, a once-in-a-lifetime promotion. And I went to being, you know, one of the top whatever, top 10, call it. And the point of that is that I've moved from very low to very high, and I left behind. So I was never going to have contact really again, not really, with the black guys on the shop floor with whom I ate lunch, with whom I everything. I was like a pariah among the other whites, the white technicians and engineers and managers, and a pariah. So on the last day, a bunch of these black guys came to say goodbye to me, because they knew full well, you know, you don't go from there to there and, you know, still send Christmas cards. It doesn't work that way. You're in a totally different environment, worrying about completely different things. You'll still greet everybody respectfully in the morning. You'll still see them on the way to work and way home, on the way home from work. But the previous relationship was not going to. So they come and they say goodbye. And the one guy I'll never forget, these guys were very generous. They were very, very kind to me. And they said many lovely things standing in this. I used to work in like a cage. It was an interesting little space. And the one guy sort of loitered until the others had left. And he came up to me and he said, I just want to thank you. You are the person in the world, or the person that I've ever met, who has done more for other people, to teach them, to help them, to lift them up, than anybody I've ever met, black or white, but especially white. You gave us so much knowledge. You taught us so much. You helped us so much. And I say that anecdote, it's a long time in the past. It's not bragging. I mean, seriously. Those days are in the past now, and in the past they shall remain. The point is that so many people, even the most inherently conservative people like me, gave the ANC a honeymoon, a second honeymoon, a grace period, a good luck bonus, a Bansela period. And the ANC stuffed up every single one of them. And now here's Cyril Ramaphosa saying, stop complaining, boys. Golly gee, yeah, we stuffed it all up. The economy is a wreck. You can't mine because we can't provide you power. But don't you think you should be taking a more positive, helpful approach to the problem? We should be climbing in the ring together. You know, I don't know. I don't know what more they would like. It reminds me of the words of a very famous, some of you will know exactly what I'm talking about just by my vague description. A very famous doctor who worked in West Africa, helping the benighted Africans, who spent decades, he devoted his life, and was an extremely intelligent, competent, capable man, world famous, not just for being a Mother Teresa figure, not just for giving his life to another race and another people in the spirit of Christian compassion, but for the genius that he brought to it, who after those decades left and wrote in a very scholarly, academic, intelligent manner, don't do what I did. You're wasting your time. They will take everything, everything, everything from you. They will leave you with nothing. And that'll be it. And we see that playing out in South Africa. You can't fathom how these folks could squander the number of chances that they've had, the support from the international community, the almost interest-free loans that they have squandered, to the extent that we're hearing these figures. I mean, they're fantastic. Eskom supposedly has a debt of 494 billion rand. Then somebody says, no, it's closer to 1 trillion. Then somebody says, well, I've worked it out and I've had it audited and it's 1.3 trillion. Then somebody else says it's going to take 2 trillion. Oh, I beg your pardon, I just bit my cheek with my tooth. It's going to take 2 trillion to fix. Then somebody else says, well, it's 2 trillion to fix, it's 1.8, but then there's another trillion of... These folks got the marcher for next to nothing. Angazi mina. Ushuguti, what happened? And, you know, I've got a word for... I said right at the beginning, there were two things that stood out for me about the video. The other, the other one, I'll tell you very quickly, was he said, I know that many of you minds are making great strides in coming up with your own electricity solutions, and I salute you for that. They told us just a few years ago that we were bad for generating our own electricity on the roofs of our houses. And that we should continue to pay an ESCOM connection fee even if we weren't using ESCOM. And that that we should pay a license fee. But that in fact we shouldn't be doing it. Now I salute you guys. You guys are doing a jolly good job of covering up for our inability to do it. Who talks like that, man? Who is that stupid? I've met a couple of people like that in my life. Who will... It happened not so long ago. Oh, dear me. Who will give you a hard time and a hard time and a hard time and a hard time and a hard time. Then when they prove to be twits, hopelessly wrong in all of their criticisms. Hopelessly, foolishly. They'll say, and by the way, we certainly won't be doing it that way, referring to the way that they had suggested. As if you... He's standing there after the African National Congress has had these... saying, I want to say, you guys are doing a good job. As if it was his idea all along. And not theirs. And it wasn't him that mucked it up. Man, it's staggering. It's staggering. Anyway, there were the two things. I was going to go into something else, but this is now a 22-minute long video. That's long enough, I think. Thank you very much for watching. We wish you everything of the very best for the times that lie ahead of us. 2023-24 are going to be very difficult years. May God be with you and yours. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe. And if you wish to donate, to support us, to help us, to do this work that we believe is very, very important, then please visit Suidlanders, SUIDlanders.org. Scroll to the bottom of the page, and the home page, and you'll find a number of very user-friendly ways to donate to us. Goodbye, and God bless you.